I see you sitting there today, feeling heavy, feeling guilty. You had plans, right? You had some plans. You had some ideas, some things you wanted to do. And maybe they were for today, but maybe they were just for like your life, the year, this decade in general. Things you wanted to get done. And instead of doing them, you didn't. And you're like staring at the ceiling, scrolling through your phone, or feeling stuck. And the voice in your head, this feeling that you have, is like whispering to you or even screaming that you're really lazy. Why aren't you doing these things? What is wrong with you? And I want to talk about it. I want you to stop where you are because you're not lazy. You're tired. And there's a massive difference. Want to blame it all on the Industrial Revolution. But pretty much since the late 1800s, we have been on this upward spiral of basing things on productivity, our value, our worth, everything. And if we're not constantly doing something in a lot of societies today, at least in Western society, America, let's just say America, that's where I am, it feels like you're falling behind. If you're not improving, you're decaying, you're atrophying. And that's not necessarily true. And if you're too exhausted to keep going, to push through, to do something, then there's like this shame that you're supposed to feel. It creeps in. And I don't know why. I mean, I do know why, but it's not fair. So let's reframe it. Let's imagine that you hurt your leg. You break it, okay? You're not going to be mad at yourself for not being able to run a marathon. I mean, you might be mad that you can't because you wanted to do that. I mean, I wouldn't want to run a marathon. My friend Dawn runs marathons. I still don't get it. She likes the bananas they hand out. But if you wanted to run a marathon and you broke your leg, you wouldn't be mad that you can't at yourself, right? But you might be mad that you couldn't, but you would understand that your body needs time to heal. Exhaustion isn't any different when you're tired, whether it's from stress or burnout or emotional overwhelm or grief or just being in a world that demands so much from us, especially if you are neurodiverse, neurospicy, however you want to look at this. People are different. And if you live in a world where it's kind of like if you're left-handed and you have been around right-handed scissors your whole life, it's not exactly safe for you. It's doable. It's definitely doable, and you adjust, you figure it out, but it's not how it's really meant for you. It's not ideal. And that's what any real disability is. And that's really how energy levels are too, right? If you're more emotionally sensitive, if you're somebody that needs more sleep, if you're somebody that takes on energies from other people, like there's so many different kinds of things. It doesn't really matter. The point is that if your body is asking for rest, that's not failure, it's biology. The thing is that we don't really allow ourselves to fully rest. We stay in this like weird limbo. I do this so much. When we're like too tired to function, but we're too guilty to recharge. And this cycle is what makes exhaustion feel like laziness. So let's talk about the difference between true rest and guilt-ridden procrastination, because they might look like the same on the outside, especially like to somebody walking past you. They may be like, oh, they're resting. But how they feel and what they do for your body are very, very different. So true rest is when your body and your mind are actually getting a break. It feels like a deep breath. It leaves you feeling at least slightly recharged, even if you don't get up ready to run that marathon. Guilt-ridden procrastination feels like avoidance. It's when you're like half resting, but still feeling restless. It's that doom scrolling activity, half watching a show while your brain's racing, lying down, but still feeling tense and on edge, and also like, I shouldn't really be doing this. That feeling. A good example might be, especially in the way that you feel afterwards. Have you ever been asleep and you feel like you slept the whole night, but you didn't get good sleep? You were tossing and turning, you had bad dreams, and it's like, well, I technically wasted that time. I slept, but I didn't get any energy energy as a result of it. So that's what guilt-ridden procrastination masquerading Trojan horse as rest looks like. And most of us have been half resting. And it's not your fault. It's just that we've actually forgotten how to rest. So what does it mean to actually rest? Well, if you've never experienced true rest, and that's actually really possible, this is what it feels like. Your muscles will unclench. And you're gonna have to probably really proactively do this for yourself. My mom is a massage therapist, and she would always tell me, take your tongue off the roof of your mouth. So I'm a chronic jaw clencher. And if you listen to my last episode where I was talking about some personal stuff, a lot of that is actually from chronic pain. But one of the things that you can do to immediately physiologically get your jaw to loosen is to remove your tongue from the top of your mouth. If your tongue isn't touching anything and it's just kind of floating in the space of your mouth, your jaw will soften. So unclenching your muscles, jaw softening, not white knuckling something. We do that a lot. We make fists with our hands, we clench our toes, we are holding tension in different parts of us that we actually don't really even know. So if you don't know what that feels like, I would try doing what they call a body scan meditation. And it'll just like 5 to 10 minutes walk you through on YouTube. They're free, going through each part of your body. And you kind of just imagine each part. And when people say to like breathe into that part, if you are somebody that can visualize, I imagine thinking about that body part. Like if we're talking about the jaw, I would breathe in. And then as I'm breathing in and out, I'm picturing the jaw. And when people say like breathe into that, I know that it sounds insane, like because your breath is only going in and out of a specific space. But if you can imagine just kind of not like sending the breath there, but just relaxing that area as you do it. Or if you can imagine sending the breath there, that also works. Whatever works is focusing the effort there. And if you can imagine filling that area up with ease, or even visualizing it just relaxing, like whatever works for you, but basically just being present, focusing on that specific area. And you'll do that one by one with different parts of your body. So that's one thing, to be physical with your relaxation, to give each part of your body a time to unclench, soften, and not tense. The next thing in terms of actually relaxing, that your brain isn't buzzing around thinking about how you should be doing something else. So that's, a little bit more difficult. When we talk about meditation, which isn't really my game, honestly. I know that we have so much research about so many different things, but everything works differently for everybody. And I just also want to use this as a side note that if meditation doesn't work for you and you've tried it, it's okay. I think breathing works better for me. I like listening to positive things and breathing and nice music and stuff, but just the act of trying to quiet my brain down isn't really helpful for me. The monkey mind they talk about in meditation is it's always there because your brain is always going. That's what it does. The challenge here is to release the guilt. You're allowed to have thoughts. You're allowed to have thoughts all the time. Trying to shut your brain down is trying to shut your life force down. I think that's insane. It's more about changing the thought. So instead of having this guilt about, I can't take this time right now. I should be doing X, Y, and Z. This is selfish. I have so much to do, It's remembering that this part is just as important as the other parts of your day. Giving this time for yourself is going to allow you to do the other parts. This part is important for your health. This part is important for your longevity. You are worth this time. So this is a challenging aspect for us to kind of reframe in terms of our worth, the importance of this space. And maybe this is giving yourself some time with another challenge, maybe just with some affirmations, EFT, mirror work, reframing your own narrative around why do you not deserve to have this time for yourself. I really think that that's the point, the root of the problem. Because the point is to let yourself, quote unquote, just be. But that doesn't mean that your brain needs to be blank. You're allowed to have thoughts, of course. I think it would be great for those thoughts to be just a little more nurturing about yourself. Maybe your thoughts could be something like, oh, this feels good. I love that I'm doing this for myself right now. I'm going to focus on unclenching my jaw right now. I'm going to do this 10-minute body scan. And instead of thinking about I should be doing something else, you get to be focused. And I think that ability to focus comes from maybe doing a little bit of what they call shadow work about your worth and ability to have the time to relax. And also, it doesn't come just once. You don't just like tap or journal and then all of a sudden you're like, oh, I'm worthy. Like, it happens over time. Little small actions. And then I think multitasking. So don't try to multitask. I think a lot of us think that resting, first of all, needs to be only laying down because we're not comfortable with being alone and we're not comfortable with our thoughts. And we think that we should be productive. We need to fill the space with listening to a podcast or scrolling through our phone or answering a text or answering an email or watching TV or something like that. If you feel the urge to multitask, maybe when you do this intentional relaxation, put something like a piece of fabric over a television screen and your phone in the other room. Because the multitasking element, I think we can multitask as humans a little bit. The research is pretty much in that we're not good at it, but you can listen to a podcast and work. It's going to defeat your ability to do it as productively as possible, for sure, but that doesn't mean that you can't enjoy it. However, in terms of relaxation, we are trying to do that all the time, and it's defeating the purpose almost entirely. So try it. Try to relax without filling the space with noise to distract yourself. Also, just remember, relaxing can also be a way to restore yourself. If you want to take some time to relax in a way that feels restorative, like gardening or taking a drive or, I don't know, playing with sidewalk chalk, that's great too. But the point is for you to kind of be in flow as well and to not multitask, to not take pictures, to not talk on the phone. You know what I mean? Like to not try to do all these different things at once. It's for you to fill your own cup. However, I do still think that we need these kind of moments where we are still, we breathe, and we unclench our physical bodies. We have spent years of being on time all the time, and this might feel really weird for us to do. It might even feel very uncomfortable at first, and that's really okay because it's your nervous system recalibrating. So how are we going to get there? So there's a few ways to relax, even if it feels foreign, and we can start small. Even if the idea of doing nothing feels unbearable, I would start with just 2 minutes. Close your eyes, take a deep breath, and let your body sink into whatever you're resting on. Meaning your physical parts of your body, resting your mind, or just resting on the bed, the floor. The second thing is with your senses. Your senses can be very powerful for triggering this environmental aspect that's soothing. If you have the ability to use 5 or any of your senses, you can light a candle, listen to some soothing music, you can hold something warm. If you have one of those things that are full of lavender seeds and you can microwave them, those are really soothing. Hold a warm mug of tea, drink it. Help your brain understand that this is a different time. This is a different mode. It's kind of like wearing a cape to go do superhero time. This is your stuff that helps you know that this is relaxation time. And then, like I said, remove distractions. Put your phone in another room. At least switch it to airplane mode and let yourself exist without constant stimulation. There's also these cute things. Like I said, you can use fabric for TVs. There's also these fun things from Japan that they have that are made to cover up TVs. They're very pretty. You can also try a weighted blanket, warm compress for weighted relaxation. There's also a trick where you can press your palms together to feel pressure. And this act triggers the feeling of proprioception. It's this feeling of understanding where your body parts are in relation to your body. When you walk through a door frame, you kind of understand how big you are in comparison to the door, so you don't hit your shoulders on the door. And some of us have better understanding of that than others. Apparently with autism, it's not as good. And that's why I always have bruises on myself. A version of pushing your palms together and feeling the pressure. That's a way to feel pressure in general, to feel weighted, but it also triggers proprioception. And it's also a signal of safety to your nervous system. Another trick, I think, or tricks, so to speak, none of these are tricks. These are tools for your toolbox, and you use them as they work for you. If they don't work, don't use them. So most of the time when we're doing this half resting thing, we are numbing and avoiding without necessarily doing it on purpose. We're just not wanting to be with our own thoughts. And it's not a conscious thing, but it's a numbing that we're doing. We're scrolling, we're eating, we're watching TV, we're not really being on purpose with ourselves, we're not looking inward, we're not being introspective. So we want to kind of replace numbing. Let's take that word and replace it with nourishing. Instead of scrolling mindlessly, try listening to the calming music, take a slow walk, watch clouds move. And your brain is probably going to fight you at first, and that's okay. You're going to be like a kid itching on a mat trying to get up, and it might pull you back into that half resting mode, and you're going to itch and want to check your phone and all those things. things, and that's okay. It's okay to fail. It's okay to want to fail. You just want to use a little bit of willpower to push through, and then understand that willpower is just the energy that you have in a short term to get you through something, and that what helps you to do this is self-discipline, which is the consistency that makes this kind of boring in the long term and easy in the long term. Your brain fighting you at first and you pushing through, that's willpower. And then when you practice and you make it easy for yourself and you set this up in a way that makes it almost inevitable, you set an alarm and now it's time to rest during the middle of the day, and you know to remove distractions, and you have all of your little tools that are your version of superhero resting, but it's your lavender pillow and your scented oil or whatever, and it's all set up for you so easily that it makes it almost impossible to fail at this. That is self-discipline. And self-discipline actually doesn't require that much energy. What requires energy are these little bursts at the beginning, when you're setting it up, when you're thinking about how is this going to be best for me, when you're listening to this episode and you're taking notes and you're thinking, okay, I don't know, I don't think that the candle makes any sense for me. I don't think going into a different room makes any sense to me. Or you are thinking, when she was talking about the brain buzzing and how I should be doing something, and how I have, like, you're thinking that you have the rooted issue of the worth at the core of it, and you're like, maybe I do need to do a lot of journaling about that right now and get to a place where I can understand myself better and work that through, and then that will get you through to a place where the self-discipline is actually really easy. That's what makes stuff habitual. Half resting, just to drive this home, half resting doesn't work. So I know that sometimes we're like, okay, well, isn't this better than not doing anything at all? I mean, maybe. Imagine your phone is at 2% battery, okay? You plug it in for 5 seconds, you unplug it, you plug it in again, you check your notifications, then you plug it in for another 2 seconds. I'm gonna say that again. Your phone is at 2% battery, you plug it in for 5 seconds, you unplug it, you plug it in again, then you do something on it, you're checking your notifications, you're draining the battery, then you plug it in for another 2 seconds, and you unplug it. That's half resting. So your brain and body need sustained rest, not tiny flashes of it with distractions. You need to let yourself fully recharge and function better, thinking clearer, and actually get more done when you decide that you want to be productive. And if you're trying to be productive in 10-hour stretches or more, my goodness, yeah, you need sustained rest. And maybe even additional rest moments during the day to recharge. Another way to think about this is the natural world. Let's think about the natural world for a moment. Trees lose their leaves in the winter. They don't keep forcing themselves to grow, not nonstop. Cats nap like it's their full-time job, and we think that's adorable. There's no shame or guilt there. And the ocean has a high tide and it has a low tide. It doesn't stay in constant motion. It ebbs and it flows. We don't look at a sleeping dog and think, what a lazy piece of crap, but we do it to ourselves. I remember I have this whole episode about when I went to the beach, and it was March, and there was a seal laying on the beach, and they had put up these barriers around it, and it said resting seal. And we were all just standing around watching it just lay. It was a very fat animal, right? It looks very blubberous. It was a baby. And apparently they come up on the shore because they need oxygen, and they're swimming and they're swimming. And after a while, they need to come up on the shore and chill because they can't keep swimming for that long. So this baby seal had just come into the sun to lay around and rest. And it was so cute. And it was novel, right? Because we don't see a seal laying around that often. And after a while of me watching the seal, whenever it would like move around and just kind of wiggle, we would all cheer. And I had this moment of zoomed out, my existential nonsense. And I thought, we are cheering for this seal to be a seal. And how wonderful is that? This seal doesn't know who we are. It doesn't care. It's not doing anything for us. It's not performing. It's just doing what it was going to do anyway. And it's wonderful that we're protecting it, I guess, but we're also cheering for it like it's a circus, and it's not. We are cheering for it because it is a seal. And that's what I want to remind you now. Nature doesn't apologize for resting. Nature understands something that we have forgotten, that rest is part of the cycle. It's not wasted time. It's essential. And if that doesn't work for you, I can help you with some science here too. So burnout isn't just feeling tired. It's when your brain literally loses its ability to function at full capacity because you have been running on empty for so long. So research shows that deep rest reduces cortisol, which is your stress hormone, which when chronically high leads to exhaustion and anxiety, and even adrenal fatigue. Deep rest improves memory and problem solving because your brain consolidates information when it is in a relaxed state, and rest restores creativity because when you're always on, your brain doesn't have any space for new ideas. But the kicker is that rest isn't just about recovering from exhaustion. It prevents it in the first place. So when you rest before you crash, you don't have to rebuild yourself from the ground up. And that is what we are going for here. So right now I want you to give yourself permission to do the bare minimum without guilt, like the bare minimum. If that's what you need anyway. We're all in different parts of our lives. And if you are in a place where you're listening to this or you searched for something like this and you need to do the bare minimum, I want you to be able to do that without guilt. To make that easier, I made a do less, feel less bad checklist. So things on this are like lay in bed and actually relax without doom scrolling, stare at the ceiling with a weighted blanket, take a nap with no alarm, sit outside and feel the air on your skin, listen to music with your eyes closed, do nothing and remind yourself that it's enough. And I know that with the things that we have to do on our to-do lists and making money, that this is sometimes a really tall order and that we don't really get the luxury to do these things. That part I know. I think that what we need to remember is that if you don't rest, your body will take a bigger rest for you without your consent. So resting before you crash is imperative for your health, for your longevity. And you don't have to do the longer things if you can't. But taking intentional rest where you're not half resting, even just for 5 minutes, is so much better than you trying to half rest for half an hour. And that is really the thing that I want to drive home. I want you to understand that those moments when you think that you're taking time for yourself and you are resting, quote unquote, for an hour watching a show, and then you say you don't have time to do something like nap with no alarm or go outside and feel the air on your skin because your schedule is chaotic, which I definitely understand. I want you to know that those times that you do make time to watch a show or whatever, if you were to divide that into a quarter or even 15% of it and actually do that with intention, no distractions, and focusing on the things that I mentioned in this episode, that you would get a better reward from it and it would help your body more. So you can grab the full checklist in the show notes. No strings, it's free. Just a little nudge to be kinder to yourself. And there's a lot more resources for free in the Positive Pulse. I've done a big transition over into a new platform that is combining the resources that were in the Positive Pulse on the dashboard as well as the free community. And I added 50 more resources. It's over on this platform called Mighty Networks, which means that it's available in an app and on the desktop. It's very sleek, very simple, very effective, very efficient, very user-friendly. I love it. So you can still get access at uncustomary.org/positive-pulse, and you can get all the things there. Okay. If this episode spoke to you, you can send it to somebody who needs to hear it or just post it on your own social media. Let's remind each other that we're not lazy. We're just human. And you can also rate this episode. That makes a big difference in people finding it. And thank you so much for listening. Until next time, remember, you have to feel good to do good.